Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. So glad you're here. I am sharing my top 5 tips for the best sleep. So I recently got a 99 sleep score, which I've been telling everybody about that tracks their sleep. And my sleep has been really, really good. So since tracking my sleep, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I've really been able to figure out some of the things that are really working for me, what can keep my score high, and what has been absolutely tanking my score. So I've talked about this, and I think it just deserves its own episode because this is such an important topic for our health. Everything happens when we are sleeping, from regeneration and repair. And I just feel like, okay, it's time to really break down, now that I have some data to figure out what works, what doesn't work for me, especially as I'm getting older. This is definitely something that there's some tweaks that have needed to be made. Let me just tell you that. But let me know if you have any questions about this episode or if you have any feedback. I'd always like to hear from you guys. You can send me an email. You can send me a DM on Instagram. Everything's in the show notes if you need to contact me. And I hope you enjoy this one. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? A lot of us are now in summer with our kids, summer session, and school is officially out for many of us. So good luck to all the moms out there. I know it can be fun in the summer, and it also can be a little bit much, as I have experienced before. So it's been about a month since I have done a solo episode, a little bit longer. And the last time I was here, I was talking about my trip to Costa Rica, which was amazing. And then I was also talking a little bit about the anti-inflammatory diet that I started. I've been enjoying it. Let's put it that way. I wanted to do a little update about my anti-inflammatory diet. It was something that my doctor recommended to me, and it's basically been really, really good. I cut out most of the things that are considered inflammatory. I'm learning that this diet, lifestyle, whatever, is pretty specific to you. Like, what causes inflammation in one person might not cause inflammation in another person. So I started with cutting a lot of things out, knowing that that would just be kind of temporary. And since I started, I have introduced back into my diet eggs and some dairy, and I've had no issues with them. So I think the big thing for me with the anti-inflammatory diet is that I've just been really enjoying whole foods, getting kind of back to basic with my meals, doing the best that I can. I have not been perfect on this diet, but now that I cut out a few things and then brought them back in, it was kind of nice to see what is something that could be a trigger for one person, but I'm fine with. So thankfully, I'm good with some dairy, and I've been good with the eggs, because I really, like, for the first couple of weeks, I didn't have eggs and I was missing them. I don't eat gluten and some of the other things that are on the diet. One thing I added in that I'm really loving is aloe vera. So every morning I have a shot of that, and then I usually have another one later in the day too. But I like talking about this because I think there's a lot of people who come to me or ask me about their skin because I've been doing skincare for so long. And I always like to just remind people, if they're having something suddenly, or if something's changing in their skin, they're having some type of reaction or inflammation in their skin, you can always start by doing something like a diet change or eliminate some things and then bring them back and see if your skin clears up. And you can see, I've talked to so many people on this podcast that was the case. They were eating dairy and it was causing their skin to break out, or there's many other irritants. And one thing that I've been really learning as I've done this anti-inflammatory diet is that there are things that I need to do for my digestion that more than just like the quote unquote anti-inflammatory diet, really paying attention to those things that have helped with my digestion, like the aloe, like warm drinks in the morning, like we talked about last week, things like that. So I've been kind of focused on just eating clean, looking at things that if it's not great for my digestion, like stop. And it's been pretty smooth. And like I said, I haven't been perfect, but I'm kind of excited because bringing back dairy really helped me get my protein in. And I think doing this diet, you have to be more careful than if you're just eating whatever you want when it comes to your protein. And as we talk about like so many times on this podcast, as a woman at my age and as we get older, how we lose muscle and everything, like I could I could notice a difference not having as much protein, and not in a good way. So that's just a little recap on the anti-inflammatory diet. But today I want to talk about something that I talk about and I sprinkle in when I'm doing interviews because it is a key pillar to our health. It's, some would say, the most important thing that we can do if we are trying to get healthy, if we want to stay healthy, if we want to heal, whatever that case might be. It is getting good sleep. And we've talked about it so many times because it's that important. And I thought instead of just sprinkling it in, I would do an episode on this because we know a lot of the facts when it comes to sleep. And we know how terrible we can feel when we don't get it. Another thing that I have been, and I've talked about this, doing the past year, maybe less, is I've been tracking my sleep. So I wear my Garmin watch to bed and I look at my sleep score every day. I think after all of this time of really paying attention to it, looking at my data, my personal data, knowing what I did the day before, the morning before, the evening of, and how that can directly affect my sleep and what kind of score I get. So I have actually gotten a lot of great sleep lately. And so I'm like, okay, I have to share this, of course. I talk about it a lot because a lot of women that I speak to, they say it's just harder now to get good sleep now that they're in perimenopause or getting older. And there's a lot of things, and I've had people that have given us some tips, and I've really listened to these guests that have been on my show because I am desperate to get good sleep. I have like a really bad reaction when I get bad sleep. And I don't know if other people have this as much as I do, and I've shared this, but I get sick. Like I feel sick when I don't have enough sleep. It just affects me so much more. And it could be like, a minor thing, to a little bit less sleep than some people. It just makes my day so hard. And so I've been taking it very seriously. I think it was a couple weeks ago, I got a 99 on my sleep score, and it was like so exciting. I couldn't believe it. I think that's the highest I've ever gotten. I've only gotten that one time, but I like to see me getting more consistently near 90s. And when I do get a score that high, I go, okay, what did I do? And I'm going to try to keep doing that. I want to talk about today, like what I'm doing, what I think helps the most, and what I do when I get a very low score. Just so anybody who's listening doesn't track their sleep and they're interested in tracking their sleep, I do have a Garmin. It is not a high-end Garmin. It's kind of like on the lower end of as far as they go, but I love it. The charge time is so good on the Garmin. And when I had an Apple Watch, like I could barely make it to the end of the day because I would always use it like if I was doing a workout or a walk. Now, I think I can go like 5 to 7 days without even charging it. So that's one little, if you're interested. I do love the Garmin. I've heard good things about the Aura too. I don't have one, but I will say, like, I know they do track different. So when I don't remember if it was my Apple Watch or I got like a knockoff Aura, like a dupe Aura ring. And I was getting the high scores all the time. It was like 88, 90. I was like, oh, I'm doing so amazing. And then I got a Garmin watch and I was like, oh, like that wasn't tracking accurately. So here I am thinking I'm getting these really great high scores, but in fact, it was just not accurate recording. So I feel like the Garmin's way better at that, but I don't know. It's just something to keep in mind when you're looking to get something that is a tracker. One of the things that I realized through tracking is that it's not just, did I get enough sleep? I always think, oh, if I went to bed at 9 and I woke up at whatever, that's plenty of sleep. I'm going to be amazing. But there's so many factors that go into our sleep, like our heart rate variability, the actual quality of our sleep. How many times did I get up versus did I sleep all the way through? So that was kind of one good lesson for me, as far as like, it's not just how long I'm sleeping that matters. There's a few things that I started doing, and every night is different. Like, listen, we're all busy, we have plans, there's things that are going on, so not every night can be perfect. But when I don't have to late night practice pick up, or when I'm just like everything is going right and we had an early dinner and I'm able to like start my routine a little bit sooner, I try to do as many things as I can before bed to kind of set me up. And one of the things that I really started to do was cut the screens a lot earlier than I used to. And that's like obviously a no-brainer. If we all know that if we're looking at our light, which is a blue light, that is going to trick our brains into thinking it's noon. Like we're up, like it's fine. And honestly, I don't think that affected me as much as it does now before, because I could be looking at my phone, put my phone down, and just go right to sleep. And I feel like that is not as easy for me to do anymore. So I just stopped looking at my phone and I started reading. At first, when I started reading, my eyes would be so tired that I'd get like half a page and then I just fall asleep. But since I stopped being on my phone and started reading a little bit earlier, it's like my brain is just getting trained to get into that restful mode just by I'm laying still, I'm reading my book. It's like very calming. And I'm reading a really good book right now. So I kind of look forward to it. I'm excited about getting into bed and reading a book. By the way, I need fiction recommendations. If anybody's listening, please send me a message, because for so long, I was not reading fiction. And now I am reading, it's by Kristen Hanna, The Four Winds, and I love her books, but I need a new book because it's almost over. So please send me book recommendations. But I love personal development books and books on growth and, health. And so those are just harder for me to get into. They're not like page turners. So I feel like getting a really good fiction book that I'm excited about, which I used to do all the time. I used to be a big reader, but I kind of just, I don't know, got away from that. That has been like huge, because now I'm excited. I'm so like, I do my skincare, I have my pajamas on, I hop into bed, and I'm like so excited to read my book. And it does just get me into that nice, relaxed state. So that's number one. That's kind of new for me. Obviously, I was reading before, but just not as exciting to read those other types of books. So a perfect night before I go to bed, before I even start to read, I do a couple other things. If I have time and I'm not too tired, I try to do a little bit of journaling. And this is not something that I do every day, but I had a bad night the other night. Like, I was stressed out and I just felt tense. And I was like, okay, I think I just need to get all of this out on paper and just like spend a few minutes doing a little bit of journaling. So I did that and I did feel better. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's out of my mind now, and I can move on to my next thing. And I guarantee you, if there's a problem that you're having and you're thinking too much and it's before bed, it's going to affect your sleep. I've had plenty of times where I've been so upset about something, or I've been worried about something, and I just keep it in my brain and I just toss and turn and I can't think of anything else. The journaling for me, and like, this is not an every night practice, but when I do it, I do feel calmer. I do feel relaxed. It's not something that is just tossing and turning in my head. It's out of my head. It's still in my mind, but like less. It just really helps. If you've never tried it, especially, or if you want to think about all the great things that happened that day. Sometimes it's not that I'm having a bad day. It's just, I want to talk about all the great things. I want to remember this. I want to write it down. I want to say, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for that moment this morning, something small that happened that really made my day. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to feel that great, cozy feeling of gratitude. And that just helps. I don't know. I think all of that combined does something. It really does help, and it helps you get into that feeling that is going to help promote just better sleep. So as far as like supplements and things like that go, before I go to sleep, the only thing that I do is a magnesium supplement, and I am deficient in magnesium. So I take magnesium glycinate, and I also have a magnesium spray. Some people say to spray it on the bottom of your feet or like near your heart. So I usually do that, a couple sprays, and then I do my magnesium supplement because that's just really great for promoting sleepiness. And it's just so many of us women are deficient. I can't remember the statistic. I had somebody on telling me about the magnesium, how most of us are deficient in magnesium. So if you are having a hard time falling asleep, look into that, get tested, or just magnesium is a pretty harmless type of supplement, so anyone could use it. This one I've been talking about on social media. The next one that I've been doing that helps is Feet Up the Wall. And we've talked about this. I had such a great guest, Michaela, a couple of years ago on the podcast. And she's the one who, this is like her ritual. She does it every single day and every single night. And I was so inspired by that. So I started doing it. I have an injury on my left foot, and it swells. It's very swollen. And then after, on top of the injury that I had, I also sprained my ankle. So I'm like, okay, I should start doing this just because it helps with the blood circulation and it helps with swelling. And it's like a lymph promoter too. So I try to do that most days. Sometimes I forget at night and I just do it in the morning for my foot. But it is another way that after we've been walking around all day, we've been, standing, depending on what kind of day and activity level you have, but it's just so nice to get that blood going the other way than it's been all day. And this is a really good opportunity because if you do it for about 10 minutes, you can do something else that would promote good sleep. Especially, this is something that you can try if you're just not sleeping. If you're having trouble sleeping, if you have trouble falling asleep, if you have trouble staying asleep, all of these things that I'm doing, I feel like they're all little contributors to why I have a good night's sleep or I don't have a good night's sleep. But the legs up the wall, at the very minimum, is just very relaxing. And when I do it, I'm like, okay, I also have a red light mask, red LED, and it's a 10-minute timer. So I'll be like, okay, I have my feet up the wall. I might as well put my mask on. So I'm like kind of making the most out of my time. I could throw a podcast on, I could throw a meditation on, or maybe I feel like scrolling because I haven't done that. I'll do that too. So it's just another thing that if I remember, and then sometimes my son comes into my room and we do it together and then we just talk, which is awesome. Okay. And another thing we've talked about that I get really lazy about sometimes, I don't know why, but I had been pretty lazy about it up until a couple weeks ago. And I decided that I was going to start using my mouth tape again. So I am a mouth breather, and this is a little side note. If you have like a lot of nasal congestion or deviated septum, breathing issues, things like that, you have to be careful with mouth tape. Like, just make sure that you're practicing and making sure that you can get enough oxygen. There's been a few times where I've been congested and I've woken up with my mouth tape like on my chin because I'm like probably ripped it off when I was half asleep and didn't know. But I did have a little bit of a learning curve with mouth tape because when I first started using it, I was just not used to breathing through my nose at all. And so I could like do it for a little bit and then I'd have to take it off because I felt like I couldn't breathe. And so now I can, it's like retrained the way I breathe. And thankfully, it wasn't like starting all over, because when I was doing it before, I was doing it every day. And then I took a big break from it, started doing it again. The first night I put it on was the night I got the 99 sleep score. And I was like, okay, that I've sold. I just need to keep this on my on my face. And I found one that I love that's very comfortable, that actually works, and that there's like a little hole in the middle so you don't feel as trapped, especially if this is kind of a new thing for you. But if you breathe through your mouth and you're having trouble sleeping, or you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're just having issues having a good night's sleep, or you're having a lot of cavities, even like can affect your oral health, do some research. Take a look at mouth tape, figure it out if that's something that you might want to try. The brand that I like, I'll put in the show notes. They're incredible. I rave about them. So it's just made a big difference for me. And I think that's something now after getting that high sleep score that I don't go to bed without. Those are the 5 actions that I take if I want really good sleep. And there are nights where I have like really bad sleep and I'll tell my husband, I'm going to bed early tonight. My girlfriend said one night, I'm doing toddler bedtime tonight. And I was like, that's so brilliant. I'm going to have to remember that because it just means she's going to bed at like 7 o'clock and good night, everybody. But it's what I do when I've had like a pretty rough night's sleep. I'm not feeling my best. I'm like, tonight we got to do better. I'm going to make sure I start this process earlier. I'm going to make sure that I do as many of these 5 things as I can. And I'm going to hope for a really, really rested sleep so that the next day I feel amazing. And while I've been talking about all the things that have made my sleep score so high, there are also things that I can do that can tank my score. And so I'm going to share those. And what I think has been the most interesting, it's not like rocket science, but for me, I was like, oh, that can do it. So number 1, I think it's one of the biggest, it's one of the biggest reasons I have bad sleep. If I do this and I have a bad score, I'm like, oh, that was why. So caffeine is so interesting. So because I am tired at the end of the day, I don't really ever have a problem falling asleep. That's pretty easy for me. Some people have a major issue with that. And for those people, I would say definitely have some sort of a ritual or put some beautiful lavender on your hands, do some deep breathing, like whatever you can to really prepare for that falling asleep portion so it's not so difficult. But that's not been a challenge for me. But I will get up in the middle of the night. I will wake up, and one thing I've also noticed is those are the nights where maybe I've had too much caffeine. If I had one guilty pleasure, my biggest guilty pleasure is caffeine. I love coffee. I love tea. I just overdo it sometimes. And I love better greens. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that, but it's like a greens drink, but it has caffeine in it. So even though I'm like, oh, I'm being healthy, I'm having one of my greens powders, there is caffeine in it. So there are times where I stack too much caffeine and it will affect my sleep in just not the most obvious way, because I could feel really tired at the end of the day, even though I've had that caffeine, but I look at my stress score and it's super high, or maybe I'm more restless, or maybe I even get up to go to the bathroom more. I used to talk about this like a little while ago about how I cannot make it through the night. I'm definitely getting up to go to the bathroom. And I swear to you guys, since I started doing all of these things for my health, I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm actually making it till the end of till the morning. Sometimes it's early morning, maybe it's 4 or 5, maybe it's 6, but that's huge for me. I mean, I used to wake up every night, like maybe 1, 2, 3, like multiple times. So I honestly think that's the mouth tape, but that's just my guess. But maybe a little bit of the caffeine as well. When I had the appropriate amount of caffeine, I don't wake up as much. And that, I don't know, when you have had the struggle that I have had, this has been almost my whole life of having, it's not just like perimenopause thing, of having to wake up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. It's so disruptive. And so you are awake and sometimes you can't go right back to sleep. Sometimes I do. But lately, the fact that I've been making it all night long without having to get up to go to the bathroom, I just like throw my hands in there. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. It's such a good feeling, especially when I've struggled with it for so long. So caffeine, look at your caffeine if you're having trouble like that, because it might be something you need to look at. Obviously, alcohol, we've talked about so many times on this show about how it affects sleep. The quality is worse. You can wake up more as well. The deep sleep and the REM sleep, not great. So I think it's really interesting too. If I just even have a small amount of wine or whatever, I feel it. And it tanks my score. It probably tanks my score more than anything. So that is something, since I'm really pumped about my sleep, is something that I just really haven't been doing much. And I can tell that it's just like what a difference it makes. It's such a good difference. So obviously, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that and they're going to ignore it, but if you're struggling and you really are drinking every day and your sleep is just crap all the time, you have to take a look at that, unfortunately. Sorry. Um, Going to bed too late, obviously, is going to make it so that you can't have enough sleep. If you have to wake up at a certain time, if you're allowed to, even they say, even if you're sleeping the full 8 hours, but you're going to bed way past 10, that'll still affect your sleep because our bodies are just doing a lot of repair during the hours of 10 and 2 a.m., 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if we're not sleeping during that time, we're really missing out, especially you guys who are like me, maybe trying to get healthy or repairing things, healing from something. If you are going to bed consistently past 10 p.m. and you're really tired or like things aren't clicking for you, or you're not losing weight, like that's another one. People who are really struggling with their weight loss, if you're not getting your sleep, it's a lot harder for you guys to lose weight because of the hormone imbalances that come with a lack of sleep and the things that our body needs to do in those important hours that helps us repair what we're working with. Obviously, you can still lose weight and not have a bunch of sleep. I think it's just a lot harder. I know when I have I've had as low as like a 40 something sleep score. I'm not craving cucumbers. I want something heavy. I feel like I need something comforting, comfort food. I want a bean and cheese burrito. But when I have a good night's sleep, I'm like, it's just a different feeling. And the things that I crave and the things that I want are so different. And of course, I want more caffeine on those days too. And that's usually when I overdo my caffeine intake. So it's like this cycle of terrible sleep. And it's really hard. And, sometimes it's difficult for people with their schedules to get to bed at a decent hour, or you need to unwind before you just hit the hay if you've been out. I get all that. And especially with kids, there are times where they want to stay up way later than I do. So that all is a factor. But, as long as we're kind of like if this is a priority to you and you know the benefits of sleep and what it can do for us and you want to work on it, it's something that we have to make an effort towards. The thing about me too is like I can go to bed late, but my body still wakes up at the same time. So those days, I'm not usually I'd have to be really, really tired to be sleeping in past the time that I normally wake up, or I don't have the option because I have stuff to do. I have to take the kids to school, whatever it might be. A lot of people in perimenopause and menopause are sleeping less. They're complaining that this is new. And a lot of it is like, you're at this new stage. Maybe you're having hot flashes, whatever it might be. And so I think in this time of our lives, we have to take a look at maybe things have worked in the past, but what's this new stage of our life? And how can I kind of make a new routine so that it supports me in this time of my life? And those are the three things that I feel like are how my score tanks when I'm doing the tracking. But also, it's just like there's different reasons why we wake up and that we're having issues that have nothing to do with those three things. It could just be our hormones. There's obviously a lot of things going on. If we're really, really low in progesterone, that can definitely affect the sleep. And a lot of women have to take progesterone and get that supplemented so that they can, then the minute they do, they're like, oh, shoot, I'm sleeping again. So that's just something to think about when we're at this age where we're like, now I'm having anxiety. Didn't have that before at night. I'm having hot flashes, night sweats. Maybe you're more sensitive. Okay, so this is definitely me. I think when I talked earlier about the alcohol and the caffeine, I am so much more sensitive to that now. I'm definitely not 20, 30 anymore. So these things are really affecting me more. So I have to make adjustments. I also think it's interesting how I talk to women who suffer more with sleep issues than men, probably because I don't know. I know I talk to way more women, but even just like when I hear podcasts and things like that of how sometimes women need more sleep. So if you have a partner and you are like, I need to have a toddler bedtime like my girlfriend does, hopefully you have a partner who can support you that is able to, take over for the night or close down shop, as I like to say, so that you can to have a night to recuperate, rest, and try to get some of this stuff done before it gets too late and actually get a good night's sleep. And I know there's obviously, for people who struggle with sleep, there's obviously medicine and different things like that, prescription medicine that you can take. I had a bad case of insomnia actually in my 20s, but I think it was more related to the fact that I was traveling and I was jet lagged and I was so stressed. So I was a kind of a wreck. And I think those were the foundations of why I've had health issues, to be honest, the things that I kind of put my body through. But I did not get started thinking about any of this stuff. I was just like, I can't sleep. And also, if you can't sleep, it is like a torture. It's like a torture device. Government will sleep deprive their prisoners because it is torture. So I was in the space of I'm literally in pain. I cannot sleep. And I had to get prescription medication, which was intense. I don't know if anyone remembers, Ambien has been around for a long time. It's insane. That's what I started with. And it's just a very powerful drug. And I wish I would have known about starting with some of these things. A lot of it was out of my control and I was young. I didn't know any better. But if you have a severe issue, and a lot of times it's our brain, see what else you can do before you start something like that. I had a really bad experience with it. A lot of times when it's not like medical or hormonal or you're doing all the right things, it could just be stress. It could be things that are just, I know when I've had a stressful situation in my life, definitely keeps you up at night. And there's just sometimes you can do nothing about that. And maybe you need a sleep aid. I get it, because we need to get our sleep. It's an important thing for us to have, obviously. Another thing, if we're just going back to basics, what are some things we can just rule out? Maybe you don't have a problem with sleep. You're like, I sleep pretty well. I don't have insomnia, anything like that. But you want to get optimized. You want to get your sleep optimized. So in that case, everyone talks about this. You want to make the room as dark as possible. We bought blackout curtains. We had to, because there's actually a street light right in front of my house. That was a no-brainer. The minute we moved into my house, I was like, we need to block that out. That's something that is kind of like a baseline that really helps. Another thing is keeping the room cool. For this one, I know summer's coming up and my bedroom is the hottest room in the house. So that's always a struggle for me in the summer. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know that a cooler room is good. And I know that I sleep really good in the winter, by the way. And then another idea for better night's sleep is just to keep consistent with what time you go to bed and what time you wake up. And that is just hard to do sometimes. Like I said earlier, it's hard to keep a consistent schedule sometimes if we have events or we have whatever we have going on. It can be difficult, but that can really help. I already talked about you can have a little routine that you do or a checklist of things that are, I know this is going to help me tonight. It doesn't need to be fancy. It could be just, some of the things we talked about today. And then the last thing that I think makes a huge difference is getting some morning sunlight. Because why? Because it helps with the circadian rhythm. And we all know that by now, especially if you listen to my podcast. I loved Robin, who was my guest a couple weeks ago. She was so great. Robin was so great when she came onto my podcast and we talked about this. And she's like, just sit by a window, open a window in the morning or open a door or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you don't have to go out and do an hour walk to benefit from getting some sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. So yeah, these are just some of the things that have really helped me. I feel like I am not immune to a bad night's sleep, a bad sleep score. I laugh sometimes because I have a couple friends who I'll be like, okay, what'd you get? What'd you get on your sleep score? And I do see people, they obsess about it or they feel bad about it. But for me, it's been such a great tool. I'm like, look at all this data that I have. Look at all these different ways that I know my sleep is going to be good. Look at all the things I've done because my sleep tracker has been able to show me that when I do these things, I get these results, and vice versa for the bad night's sleep. Even if the bad night's sleep stuff is fun. I'm turning 49 this month, and I need to make sure that I prioritize my sleep for everything that I'm going through right now, and just for the fact that I want to feel good. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you took something out of it. I hope that if you struggle with sleep, you're able to incorporate something that I shared here today. And I hope that it helps, because it's really, really helped me. I hope everybody is having a good start to maybe summer and definitely this month of June. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.